If you still believe women fall for love, loyalty, or good intentions, then you're already losing. Because the reality is, those things don't hold power in the modern game of attraction. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He didn't waste his time writing about romance. He wrote about power, strategy, and the hidden laws of human behavior. And what he saw then still shapes relationships today. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Women, just like men, are not moved by comfort. Comfort makes you predictable. Comfort makes you invisible. What actually drives attraction is power, not the power of muscles, money, or empty words, but the silent power of leverage, presence, and psychology. Think about it. Women don't obsess over the man who makes life easy. They obsess over the man who creates tension, mystery, and uncertainty. The one they can't fully read, the one they can't fully control. Now listen carefully. This is not about manipulation. This is about understanding human nature. It's about seeing the patterns that already exist, the hidden triggers most people ignore. When you understand them, you stop trying to force attraction, and instead, you allow it to happen naturally, because she feels it, not because you beg for it. And that's the secret most men never see. They waste time proving they're good guys, thinking it will win love. But attraction has nothing to do with being good. It has everything to do with influence, perception, and emotional dominance. So in this video, I'm going to reveal 10 hidden weaknesses women will never admit to. These are the emotional triggers that secretly control desire, respect, and loyalty. Once you understand them, you'll never chase again, because instead of running after love, you'll become the gravity she can't escape. 1. The fear of exclusion. At the core of every human being lies a primal fear, the fear of being left out, ignored, or excluded. But for women, this fear runs especially deep. Why? Because for centuries, survival didn't depend on brute strength. It depended on being accepted, chosen, and protected by the group. Go back thousands of years to tribal life. If a woman was cast out, if she was no longer wanted by her tribe, her survival chances dropped instantly. Alone, she couldn't defend herself from predators. Alone, she couldn't hunt, gather, or protect her children. Exclusion wasn't just emotional pain, it was a death sentence. Fast forward to today. Women no longer live in tribes, but the biology hasn't disappeared. That ancient fear still lingers. It shows up in subtle but powerful ways. She feels anxious when you don't reply right away. She starts overthinking when you pull back your energy. She panics when she senses she's being replaced or ignored. Here's the paradox. When you're always available, when you answer every message instantly, when you're always present, she relaxes. And when she relaxes, her emotions shut down. You become background noise, predictable, forgettable. But when your silence enters the room, everything changes. She starts to wonder, where is he? Why hasn't he replied? Did I say something wrong? Is he losing interest? That gap, the absence of certainty, activates the ancient fear of exclusion. And once that fear is triggered, she invests more energy in keeping you close. Now don't confuse this with manipulation. It's not about playing games. It's about balance. Presence only gains value when it's paired with absence. If you give too much of yourself too easily, she stops valuing it. But if you occasionally hold back, if you let her feel the silence, your presence becomes rare, and rare things are always valuable. Machiavelli would call this strategic unpredictability. He said, "The absent are always in the wrong, but the unpredictable are always remembered." Your goal isn't to vanish or to punish. It's to let her feel that your time, attention, and energy are not automatic. They're earned. Because the truth is this, absence isn't weakness. It's a weapon. And when you learn how to use it, you stop chasing her attention. She starts chasing yours. 2. Emotion outranks logic. Here's a hard truth most men don't want to hear. Logic doesn't seduce women. Emotion does. Men are wired to value facts, numbers, and proof. That's why so many guys lead with their resume. I have a good job. I make this much money. I drive this car. I've got my life together. On paper, it all sounds impressive. But here's the problem. Women don't fall in love with paper. They fall in love with the way you make them feel. Think about it. You could sit across from her and list every accomplishment of your life, and maybe she'll nod politely. Maybe she'll even say, "Wow, that's great." But in her mind, she's already somewhere else because logic doesn't touch her. Emotion does. That's why the most unforgettable men are not the richest or the most educated. They're the ones who make her feel curiosity, feel wonder, feel a spark of energy she can't explain. Here's an example. Let's say you work in sales. If you tell her, "I work in sales," she'll forget it in 5 seconds. Boring, logical, done. But if you say, "I help ideas move people," suddenly she leans in. Now there's mystery. Now there's a story. She's curious. What kind of ideas? How do you move people? You've opened a loop in her mind and she can't stop thinking about it. That's the secret. Don't give her data. Give her an experience. Don't say, "I'm a manager." Say, "I create calm in the middle of chaos." Don't say, "I'm a developer." Say, "I build things no one notices until they work perfectly." Don't say, "I'm in finance." Say, "I help people make smarter moves before it's too late." See the difference? One is logic, the other is emotion, and women are wired to follow the story that makes them feel something. Now let me make this clear. This isn't about lying or putting on a fake mask. It's about reframing the truth in a way that sparks curiosity and emotion. Machiavelli wouldn't explain, he would influence. He wouldn't describe, he would craft perception. Because here's what most men miss. The female mind isn't asking, "Is he successful?" It's asking, "How do I feel when I'm around him? What energy does he give off? What story is he inviting me into?" And if you can answer that with emotion instead of logic, you won't just be another man on her list. You'll be the man she can't stop thinking about. 3. Validation must be earned. Here's where most men kill attraction without even realizing it. They give validation for free. Scroll through social media and you'll see it everywhere. A woman posts a picture and within seconds, likes, fire emojis, heart eyes, comments like, "You're so pretty, I'd do anything for you, you're a goddess." It never ends. And even if she says she doesn't care, the truth is, it still feeds her ego. It still reinforces her value in the social marketplace. And what happens to all those men who flood her with attention? They disappear, not physically, but psychologically. They blend into the background because they're all doing the same thing. They're ordinary, predictable, boring. See, what's free is forgotten. What's earned is remembered. If you hand out your attention, your compliments, your energy without making her work for it, you instantly place yourself in the same mental box as every other man competing for her. And that box has a label. Another guy who wants me. Another guy I don't have to earn. But here's the shift, the one Machiavelli himself would recognize. If you hold your validation back, if you don't rush to flatter, if you remain calm and selective, suddenly your words become powerful. One rare compliment from you will replay in her head 100 times more than 10 desperate ones from everyone else. Imagine this. She leans in, she shows interest, she invests effort, and then, after all that, you drop one well-placed line. "That was impressive." Or, "Not many people could have pulled that off." Or even just, "I like how you think." That one rare line, it hits different. It lodges itself in her memory. Why? Because she earned it. Because it came from a man who doesn't give validation like candy, but like a reward. And here's the key. This is not about being rude or cold. It's about being selective. You're not shutting her down. You're not withholding just to play games. You're simply letting her see that your attention has value. And value is never free. Machiavelli would remind us, the more abundant something is, the less it's worth. The rarer it is, the more it's chased. So stop giving your validation away like loose change. Let her work for it. Let her earn it. And when she finally gets it, it won't just feel like a compliment. It'll feel like power. And that's when she'll keep coming back. Not for your words, but for the weight behind them. 4. Stability without tension falls flat. Every woman says she wants a man who makes her feel safe. And it's true. Security is one of the deepest needs in any relationship. But here's the catch. Safety without excitement eventually becomes boredom. Think about it. If she always knows exactly what you'll say, exactly what you'll do, exactly how you'll act, her emotions shut down. There's no tension, no mystery, no fire. She feels secure, yes, but desire cannot survive on security alone. This is where most men fail. They think, if I'm always nice, always calm, always predictable, she'll stay with me. Wrong. She'll appreciate you. She'll respect you, but she won't desire you. And desire is what keeps her obsessed. Here's the truth. Women are emotional creatures. Their attraction is wired to rise and fall with tension. They don't consciously seek chaos, but they crave the spark that comes from unpredictability, the contrast between calm and storm. Machiavelli would tell you this: stability earns trust, but tension commands attention. A man who can give her both will own her mind completely. So how do you balance it? Be consistent, but not robotic. Show up strong, but don't let her predict every move. Be the anchor, but also the wave. Give her safety, but also surprise. Be warm, but not endlessly available. Let her feel your presence, but also your absence. Example: maybe she expects your weekend plans to always be the same. Netflix, dinner, repeat. Instead, you surprise her with something unexpected. A trip out of the city, a hidden restaurant, an activity she didn't see coming. Suddenly, her emotions light up again. She feels the safety of your presence and the thrill of uncertainty. That's the formula. Security plus tension. Predictability keeps her grounded. Surprise keeps her hooked. Remember, stability without tension falls flat. It becomes comfort, and comfort, over time, feels like numbness. But when you master both, when she feels safe in your arms yet never quite sure what's coming next, that's when you stop being just her man. You become unforgettable. 5. Invisible competition. Most men think the way to win a woman is to give her undivided attention, to make her feel like she's the only one in the world. On the surface, that sounds romantic, but in reality, it kills desire. Here's why. When a woman knows she has you completely with no risk of losing you, she stops valuing your attention. Human nature works this way. We only fight for what feels scarce. What's guaranteed is never cherished. Now let me be clear. This is not about cheating, lying, or playing toxic games. This is about understanding how subtle competition triggers desire. Women are naturally social creatures. They are finely tuned to status, to hierarchy, to comparison. And when she senses, even quietly, that other women admire you, respect you, or want to be around you, her ego activates. She won't say it out loud, but inside she's asking, who is that woman? What does she have that I don't? Why did he mention her name? Why did she give him her attention? And that's when her emotions flare. Suddenly she's more invested. She tries harder. She wants to stand out. Not because you beg for her attention, but because she doesn't want to lose what others might be chasing. Here's how you create invisible competition the smart way. You don't brag about women. You don't flirt openly just to provoke jealousy. Instead, you drop subtle cues that other women are in your orbit. For example, one of the girls in my team had the same idea yesterday. A friend of mine recommended this place. She's sharp when it comes to food spots. I was having coffee with a friend, and she brought up something interesting about that. See the difference? You're not disrespecting her. You're not being obvious. You're simply showing her that your world doesn't revolve around her, and that other women recognize your value. Now she feels it. Now she starts comparing. And now she fights to stand out, because a prize that is wanted by others always feels more valuable. Machiavelli would call this the psychology of scarcity. Scarcity creates demand. Competition creates desire. So remember this: you don't win a woman's attention by making her the only one. You win it by letting her see, without flaunting it, that others could have you too. That's when her emotions wake up. That's when she starts chasing not just you, but the position no other woman can take. 6. Mystery builds addiction. If you want to kill attraction instantly, here's how. Tell her everything. Give her your entire life story in one sitting. Over-explain every thought. Reveal every detail. Sounds honest, right? But here's the truth. Certainty kills curiosity, and without curiosity, there is no desire. Human psychology hates unfinished business. When something feels incomplete, our brains keep returning to it again and again until the loop is closed. That's why cliffhangers in movies keep us binge watching. That's why unanswered questions live rent-free in your mind. The same law applies to attraction. When you reveal too much, there's no tension left. She already knows who you are, what you think, how you feel, what you'll do. You've given her closure, and closure ends the chase. But mystery? Mystery is the drug. When you say less, when you hold back just enough, when you leave certain things unsaid, her imagination goes into overdrive. And here's the secret. What she imagines about you will always be more powerful than what you could actually explain. It's not about lying, it's about restraint. You don't need to tell her every detail about your past. Let her wonder. You don't need to explain every thought. Let her try to decode your silences. You don't need to post your entire life online. Let her feel that she doesn't have access to everything. Even something as small as a half smile, a pause before answering, or stopping mid-thought with, "Never mind, I'll tell you later," can create obsession. Because now her brain won't let it go. She'll replay it, question it, fill in the blanks with her own imagination. And that's where addiction begins. Not with answers, but with questions. Not with certainty, but with the hunger to know more. Machiavelli would tell you, people don't obsess over what's revealed. They obsess over what's hidden. Power doesn't come from exposure. It comes from restraint. So stop giving away your mystery like cheap currency. Don't dump your life story all at once. Don't answer every question in full. Leave some things unsaid. Leave her curious. Leave her guessing, because the man who gives everything becomes ordinary. But the man who withholds just enough becomes unforgettable. And once she's hooked on the mystery, she won't just want your attention. She'll crave your presence like an unsolved riddle she can't stop chasing. 7. The craving for leadership. Here's a truth most men never accept. Women don't just want a man who listens. Deep down, they want a man who leads. Not a dictator, not a tyrant, not someone who tries to control her every move, but a man who knows what he wants, who can hold his frame, and who provides direction when life gets chaotic. Because here's the reality. Even in today's world, where women are more independent than ever, leadership is still magnetic. Why? Because leadership signals strength, certainty, and protection. It tells her, if the world falls apart tomorrow, this man won't collapse. He won't freeze. He'll step forward. And that is deeply attractive. Think about it this way. Every day, women are bombarded with choices, responsibilities, and decisions. At work, in life, everywhere. And while she can handle it, she doesn't want to carry all of it. When she's with a man who leads calmly and confidently, she feels like she can finally let go of some of that weight. She can relax into his presence. That is power. But let me make this crystal clear. Leadership isn't barking orders. It isn't forcing control. It's quiet confidence. It's steady direction. It's the ability to move things forward without ego. For example, instead of asking 10 times where she wants to eat, say, "We're trying that new Thai place on Friday. Be ready by 7. Instead of panicking when plans fall apart, say, "Don't worry, I've handled worse. We'll figure this out." Instead of waiting for her to decide everything, decide, and do it with calm certainty. See the difference? Those aren't commands. They're anchors. They let her feel safe in your frame. They let her feel she's with someone who won't collapse under pressure. Machiavelli would call this the authority of presence. True leaders don't scream for power. They embody it so strongly that others willingly follow. And here's the kicker. If you don't lead, she will. And the second she has to mother you, guide you, or push you into action, attraction starts to die. Not because she's cruel, but because biologically she doesn't want to carry both roles. She wants a man she can lean on. So don't over-explain. Don't beg for permission on every little thing. Lead gently, hold the wheel, provide clarity when things get messy. Because once she feels your leadership, not ego-driven, but grounded and calm, she won't just follow you. She'll respect you. And respect is the fuel that keeps attraction alive long after the first spark fades. 8. Attention inflation in the digital age. We live in a world drowning in attention, but starving for meaning. Every time a woman posts a picture, she's bombarded with likes, fire emojis, and "you're so beautiful" messages within minutes. Hundreds of guys competing for her with the same recycled compliments. And to her, that flood of validation doesn't feel special. It feels normal. This is the trap most men don't see. They think giving her more attention will make them stand out. But in reality, the opposite is true. When attention is everywhere, it becomes cheap, and what's cheap loses value. Machiavelli understood this principle long before Instagram existed. When something is abundant, people take it for granted. Scarcity creates desire. Rarity creates power. So if you're the guy who replies instantly, who double texts, who comments on every story, who never lets a day go by without "good morning, beautiful," you're not being thoughtful. You're being predictable. Background noise. The same as every other man flooding her DMS. Now flip the script. Imagine you don't rush. Imagine you don't hand out validation on autopilot. You're calm. You respond when you want to, not when you feel pressured to. You're not cold, but you're selective. Suddenly, your attention feels different. It carries weight, because it's rare, because she has to wonder, why hasn't he replied yet? Why doesn't he react like everyone else? What makes him so steady, so unshaken? And when you finally do send a message, even if it's short, "that made me laugh," or "you've got good taste," it lands like a punch. Because it wasn't free, because it wasn't desperate, because it felt earned. Here's the secret. Your attention is currency. The more you throw it around, the weaker it becomes. But the more you guard it, the more valuable it feels. And the men who understand this, they don't chase women. Women chase them because their attention is the one thing she can't buy in bulk. So stop giving her what every other man is giving. Don't flood her with free attention. Make her work for yours. Make it mean something. Because in the digital age, scarcity isn't just attractive, it's power. 9. The project instinct. Here's a paradox few men understand. Women are not always chasing the perfect man. In fact, perfection often bores them. What pulls them in, what hooks their emotions, is potential. It's the instinct to build, to shape, to invest in a man who is strong but still evolving. A man who doesn't need saving, but who allows her to feel like she's part of his growth. Think about it. If you show up as flawless, nothing to improve, nothing to work toward, no cracks in your armor, she may admire you. But admiration is not obsession. Why? Because she feels no role in your story. She's an observer, not a participant. And humans value what they participate in more than what they simply witness. Now here's where most men mess up. They think being a project means dumping all their problems on a woman, seeking therapy through her, or exposing weakness without control. That's not attractive, it's exhausting. The real secret is controlled vulnerability, showing her that you are on a path of growth and letting her feel like she has a role in that journey. For example, I've been pushing myself to get more disciplined with my mornings. It's tough, but I'm improving. Public speaking used to terrify me, but I'm forcing myself to get more comfortable. I've always wanted to start my own business. I'm finally building the first steps. Notice, these aren't cries for help. They're glimpses into a man on a mission. You're already moving forward, with or without her. But by sharing it, you allow her to feel like she's part of the process. And that creates a deep emotional bond. Why? Because when she invests in your evolution, she isn't just investing in you. She's investing in herself. If you rise, she feels like she rises too. And psychologically, people protect and fight harder for what they've invested in. Machiavelli would see this as strategy. People value what they build more than what they inherit. A woman who feels she's helping shape you will fight harder to keep you, because walking away would mean walking away from her own creation. But here's the power move. Never let her think you need her to grow. You're not broken. You're not incomplete. You're already moving. She's just witnessing and contributing to a transformation that would happen regardless. That's the hook. That's the addiction. She doesn't just love who you are, she falls for who you're becoming and the fact that her fingerprints are on that evolution. 10. The desire for power over power. This is the darkest truth of them all. A woman doesn't want to control a weak man. She may tolerate him, she may use him, but she will never respect him. Why? Because controlling someone who has no strength is meaningless. There's no challenge, no thrill, no value in victory. What she truly desires, though she'll never say it, is the ability to test a man with power, to push him, bend him, and see if he breaks. It's not about cruelty, it's about biology, because only by testing can she know if your strength is real or if it's just a mask waiting to shatter. This is why women challenge men. It's why they create small storms, throw emotional tests, ask questions with hidden weight. On the surface, it looks irrational, but underneath, it's instinct. She's measuring your frame. She's asking silently, can he handle me? Can he handle life? Can he stand unshaken when pressure rises? And here's the paradox. If you collapse, if you get defensive, if you crumble under the smallest test, she loses attraction instantly. Not because she's cruel, but because her instinct tells her you're unsafe. You can't hold your own, so you can't hold her. But if you stay calm, if you stand firm without anger, without panic, everything changes. Her respect rises. Her attraction deepens. Because now she knows this is a man who cannot be easily broken. A man whose power is not given, but earned. Machiavelli understood this. Real power is tested power, and the more it's tested without breaking, the more undeniable it becomes. So don't run from her challenges. Don't fear the moments she questions you, provokes you, or pulls back to see what you'll do. That's not rejection, it's verification. She's not trying to destroy you. She's trying to feel safe knowing you can't be destroyed. And once she sees you can't be shaken, once she feels that your strength is greater than her tests, something profound happens. She doesn't just feel attraction, she feels trust. And trust is the deepest form of desire. Because in the end, women don't want to control weak men. They want to test strong men and fall for the ones who pass without flinching. So now you've seen them, the 10 hidden weaknesses women will never admit, but that secretly control the entire game of attraction. And remember, this isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding human nature. Because the men who ignore these truths stay powerless, always chasing. But the men who master them, they stop chasing love and instead become love's gravity. So I'll leave you with this. Power in relationships, just like in life, is never handed over. It's earned, it's tested, and it's taken. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 10 weaknesses have you noticed the most? Which one hit you hardest? Drop it in the comments, even one word, because your answer might open someone else's eyes. And if this message woke something up in you, don't just scroll away. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share this with a man who still doesn't see the game. Because here we don't play nice, we play smart. Stay sharp, stay steady, and remember, in the game of attraction, real power is never given, it's taken.